What makes a character memorable? What makes them feel real? Not just their strengths or weaknesses, not even their quirks and oddities, but their contradictions. A warrior who fears battle, a scholar who craves adventure, a loner who secretly longs for connection. Inner contradiction leads to inner conflict, which is what brings a character to life. And why does internal contrast matter for character development, you may ask? First off, real people are full of contradictions. And what are we all striving to create in our stories? A world that feels real and alive. Secondly, conflict creates engagement. Readers won't want to engage with a character that's flat, one-dimensional, and predictable. And thirdly, inner contrast drives character growth. Their story is about resolving or accepting their contradictions, i.e., character arc. As an example, imagine a scholar, your stereotypical nerdy history student. He's shy, awkward, a little agoraphobic, and doesn't have any friends. This character is interesting on the surface, but falls completely flat when faced with any kind of a challenge. His behaviors are predictable, and he doesn't show much hope for change. One of the characters in my fantasy world, Arturin, is this character. The loner history student who's too afraid to talk to people or come out of his shell. And yet, when he is dragged on a long journey with the legendary ranger Teresa, as they get to know each other, he begins to reveal a softer side of himself, silently leaving gifts and food in her bag, always remembering her birthday, letting her choose their next adventure when he sees the excitement in her eyes. Despite his aversion to leaving his social comfort zone, he's actually quite emotionally intelligent. This contradiction adds dimension, making him memorable and unpredictable. With the simple, nerdy scholar, if we would have thrown a challenge or interaction at him, the reader would close the book in boredom, having already predicted the outcome. But with this new dimension of emotional intelligence, suddenly his challenges and interactions are complex, interesting, and leave plenty of room for unexpected twists. This example shows a character who isn't just an NPC. He has complexity, just like real people do. The fact that Arturin's initial external interactions differ from the way he acts in quieter moments once he's gotten to know someone gives readers the sense that he has genuine depth. In addition to this complexity, lends itself well to the unpredictability and twists, which makes the reader want to keep turning the page until the unholy hours of the morning. And lastly, this self-contradiction is a decent setup for a character arc that can go in several different directions. This is what creates a compelling character, and characters are the heart and soul of a story. So how can we create internal contradiction in a character? Here are the few of the ways that characters contradict themselves. A good way of thinking about this is by assigning the character their sun sign and moon sign. Now, I'm not entirely a believer in astrology, but it's certainly a good basis for thinking about it. The sun sign is how the character portrays their external personality in typical circumstances, while the moon sign is how they act in more unusual circumstances. The most common and effective strategy for revealing the moon sign is by giving the character a companion or love interest who pulls them away from their typical day, thereby challenging their sun sign and provoking the moon sign to reveal itself. So, let's talk about a few ways that we can create internal contradiction in a character. The first one is personality versus behavior. So Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, is one of my favorite examples of this. Maybe because Frieren's arc aligns so closely with my dear character, Arturin. Frieren is outwardly stoic and emotionally distant, but internally, she's deeply sentimental and longs for connection. She casually shrugs off human emotions, and yet she spends centuries honoring Himmel's memory, proving she cares more than she admits. The second way we can create contradiction in characters is beliefs versus actions. In Spice and Wolf, one of my favorite animes from childhood, the character Lawrence claims to be a calculating and logical merchant, yet he often lets emotions override good business sense, especially when Holo is involved. He pretends to be in control, but is often led by his heart. This is a great example of a character acting one way in normal circumstances, but being thrown through the whirlwind of a character arc after meeting someone special. The third way we can create contradiction in characters is through past versus present. Uh, Back to Frieren, she spent centuries ignoring human emotions because she believed people came and went too quickly. She now realizes she wants to connect, but she doesn't know how, leading to moments of awkward growth. And the fourth way we can create contradiction in characters is through strength versus weakness. Shrek, one of my favorite childhood movies of all time. In Shrek, he's physically powerful, but emotionally fragile. He builds walls to protect himself from rejection. And yet, Fiona's kindness forces him to face his own insecurities. So let's talk about some practical tips. Ask yourself, what's something this character would never do? Then give them a reason to do it. Show their public versus private self. Who are they alone versus around others? Let them struggle in their contradictions. Growth happens in conflict. So, in conclusion, a character's contradictions make them feel real. Their internal struggles create depth, tension, and growth. If you're struggling to put contrast in your own characters, think of some characters from your favorite books, games, or shows that have strong internal contrast. Boil it down to its bare components, then watch how the writers weave that into the character in a natural way. There are only so many types of internal contradiction. What makes each story special is how the writer portrays these fundamentals in complex new ways. Well, that's it for this week's video. Next week, we'll talk about contrast in character duos and party dynamics. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.